Had a lot of questions about recording a song and why I don't do it. There are technical difficulties, of course. I'd have to increase my skill with instruments and sound mixing and so on to get a decent backtrack for it. And I might have to compose something or get the rights from someone else. But fundamentally, there are also difficulties with lack of legal protection for doing a song. What we have ironically called, in terms of copyright protection, is really designed to essentially bait people into taking bits of themselves and giving them away eventually for use by other people, with, I would see it as, insufficient compensation, because in my case at least, I'm doing this because I want to be able to live. And if I'm not being given life in exchange for putting out these artistic works, then it's not worth my time. There have been various ways, of course, over the years to bait people and give them a false sense of being able to have value to their artistic works for a while after they die. But all that also creates problems when you've got artists who've created a massive value of copywritten material, when it's protected for a period beginning with the death of the artist, plus a certain number of additional years. Then, of course, you get a huge problem with that, because there's a big incentive to kill the artist as quickly as possible to get access to that person's copyrights. And you've seen, of course, things like that happen with many prominent artists in recent years. Though, I think one thing we need with this sort of law is of course, protection to keep people from killing artists for profit, or from withholding the means that artists would need to not age. Anything else, it seems, is ultimately ripping somebody off, even if it's material that has gone into the public domain, and perhaps especially if it's material that's gone into public domain, created by an artist who wanted to live and hasn't gotten that in exchange for the use of his or her work. That doesn't seem to be discussed very much. I found one article on it, but it was just discussing it in reference to religious works and talking about Scientology and its copyright battles. But ironically, Scientology wouldn't exist if there had been a means for L. Ron Hubbard to make money from his books. And he just decided, this isn't worth it. I'll start up a religion and make way more money. Now imagine how much better of a world we would have had if he could have just made money writing stories with the available means of being paid that were there. He found a fantastically profitable way of making money from stories, but look at all the misery it caused. So that's what I'm thinking about. When I just put up one note, I have some protection under fair use principles, because fair use does not allow someone to copy something in its entirety. I mean, you've got something very short, you're essentially copying it in its entirety if you take even only a short piece of it. If it's a one-note video where me trying to get to the point where I can sing one note, and they copy even the smallest portion of that one note, that's copying it all and not subject to fair use protection. But even then, under copyright law, what we have will eventually fall into the public domain. Now, I think I could argue against that, because I'm not really making an artistic work that infringes on anyone else's ability to create artistic work. I can just make a note that's recognized or measurable on the musical scale, but it doesn't preclude anyone else from singing the same note and selling theirs. Whereas a song, if it resembles my song too closely, it can conceivably get to the point where there are only so many songs available, and so someone can't write a song that doesn't sound like an already existing one without infringing on that person's copyright. So that's part of the rationale why these things eventually get declared public domain. But every time you declare something like that public domain, you're declaring a part of some person who wanted to live and who was denied the opportunity to live, to protect his basic or her basic existence. Copyright is really a bit of a cruel joke in that way, because all these things that are copywritten are created by people who didn't have the ability to copy them themselves. And now, instead of access to that physical capacity to copy ourselves and live on and have right to property because we're alive and can hold property, we're having all these bits of ourselves, our personal property, being covertly stolen, mined, resold. So the capacity to reverse engineer a person is gradually becoming more and more a real possibility, in that you could take all the little footprints that people leave through life, to reference the Battlestar Galactica example, and use them to create a digital person. And the ultimate, of course, would be to get a digital record of all the chemicals and molecules that make up someone's DNA. And then, in that case, intangible property, personal information, would be a person. You'd have a big part of who they are by accessing that information. And a voice is like that. And that's why I feel very concerned about putting my voice out, and have in the beginning. I didn't put my face in conjunction with my voice because I was worried about that, and still am. Because I have these tens of millions of views of my videos that are out there without my consent and being used for purposes which I wouldn't approve of, can't profit from, and can't be used by me in the way that I would choose, at least, to prolong my own existence. In a way, everything that makes us up, or a large chunk of it, informationally now, is being stolen and freely available for other people to remix and reverse engineer as they please. But we don't have the basic ability to just copy and keep ourselves and continue ourselves as we are. And so there's this lack of protection, as I see it, that needs to be addressed in terms of the basics that make up our existence. And that always makes me pause when I'm thinking of how to put out a song, because I don't want something of me attached to and thought of as an artistic creation that's going to eventually become everybody else's property, that they can do